Good afternoon and welcome to the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance's 2021 7 to Save announcement. I'm Nick Mitchell, Chair of the Board of Directors. As many of you know, we have held this announcement event at many tremendous places around the state over the years. Places like Daniel Webster Farm in Franklin, the Danbury Grange, and the Wolfboro Town Hall, where we have celebrated successful rescues and revitalizations. Instead, this year, because of the pandemic, we're going statewide on Zoom. We appreciate you joining us tonight and hope and expect that we'll all be back together in person for the next unveiling, along with many other Preservation Alliance programs we present throughout the year. The 7 to Save program is central to our work, saving endangered places, and it's been very effective in helping to draw new attention and resources to irreplaceable landmark properties around our state. It's also helped the Preservation Alliance meet our broader goals of increasing investment in historic places, demonstrating the many benefits of historic preservation, and strengthening preservation activity around the state. At the Preservation Alliance, we know that we must continue to expand our well-received technical services, including grant making and educational programs, in order to overcome significant challenges such as the pandemic, climate change, and the severe shortage of experienced tradespeople we need to save our most important and iconic landmarks. With your help, we can do it.
Thank you, Nick. I'm Jennifer Goodman, the Executive Director of the Preservation Alliance. And before we move into seeing the new list, the 2021 list, we wanted to share a few examples of great progress associated with 7 to Saves from the past. Wave your hand or send a little chat in if you're associated with one of the 7 to Saves from over the years. Great progress, and here are 3 of many examples of great projects moving forward. Up north, this is the Parker J. Noyes property in Main Street in Lancaster, showing the importance of creativity and community commitment. In Hopkinton, New Hampshire, here are the Kimball Cabins, also a former listee on 7 to Save that had great investment by neighbors and some never say never tenacity. We're also really pleased to see the reuse plans for this great building, the Marsh House in West Chesterfield, where there's a creative reuse plan and been great support from local businesses and others in the community. That's the good news. I think we also need to learn from the losses, and the town of Moultonborough's decision to demolish the French Taylor House, another listee on 7 to Save, seemed particularly disappointing because there had been a track record of interest to reuse this Main Street property in Moultonborough, and there's such a strong demand for residential properties right now. So too bad. We're sorry for the losses and trying to learn from them. And as Nick reflected, there's a lot more to do. So here's a photo of the gas holder building in Concord as a kind of an emblem of forward progress on the past listees and a desire on the Preservation Alliance's behalf to help more local projects and help see more success stories going forward. A few technical notes. We are recording this program so we can share it later. Please stay muted unless you're a presenter. And as I mentioned the chat box before, please feel free to use the chat box to send messages about the 7 or other things you're working on. Wanted to thank our 7 to Save selection committee. I think some of those folks are with us today on Zoom. Board members Michael Duffy and Rebecca Mitchell, Nadine Miller from the State Historic Preservation Office, the Division of Historical Resources, and a former board member of ours, Bob Wilson. Selection criteria, I think a lot of you know, relates to the property's significance, the severity of the current threat, and the extent to which this designation, the 7 to Save designation, can make a difference. So we're about to start the unveiling. With each, we've invited somebody associated with the project to talk a little bit about the resource, its significance, the threats, and what is needed to get to saved. So ready? Drum roll, please. The first up is the United Baptist Church of Lakeport. And here with us this evening is Wayne Hackett, who's a church member and a building advocate for this incredible landmark. So Wayne? There he is.
A wonderful example of Victorian polychromatic design, this impressive wood frame church remains largely as it was built in 1892. Designed and built by Montpelier architect George H. Guernsey, it was listed to the National Register of Historic Places for its architecture in 1985. The church's relatively small congregation is working to preserve and repair this large building and find new ways for it to remain viable in the midst of dramatic changes to the surrounding village. Historically, the church stood at the center of a small residential neighborhood in Lakeport, now part of Laconia. Lakeport's mills, lumber yards, shipbuilding industries, and freight railroad capitalized on the water flow from the Winnipesaukee River into Paugus and Opeechee Bays. A fire in the early 1900s destroyed a large portion of the homes and mills in this area west of the river, which included the properties of many of the church's proprietors. Today, the church is surrounded by new residential, commercial, large marinas, and boat storage facilities. Its structural integrity is at risk. The 120-foot steeple will require partial dismantling to correct a lean and twisting caused by years of constant wind pressure. When the church realized the issues, they needed advice to address the problem. They contacted Preservation Timber Framing, PTF, of Berwick, Maine, and they were referred to the Preservation Alliance. PTF completed a temporary stabilization of the tower in 2019. Additional repairs are needed to a corner roof support post whose deterioration has caused an interior sanctuary arch to drop several inches. The arch was temporarily bolted into place, so no further movement can occur until the post is replaced. Also, the building's stained glass windows need extensive reletting work to remain sound. With the assistance of the Preservation Planning Grant from the Preservation Alliance, a historic building assessment is underway to help church leaders figure out a long-term treatment plan for the building and long-term fixes for the structural issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne, for sharing that. Next up, we're still in the same city, and we're going to hear from Tara Shore, who's chair of the Historic District Commission in Laconia, about the Weirs DriveIn site that also has archaeological importance.
How many sites are important for what happened there 10,000 years ago and for an outdoor use that flourished in the mid-20th century? This 12.6 acre property, now listed for sale for $3 million, is such a place. And the historic Weirs DriveIn electronic message sign is part of the deal. Lake Winnipesaukee funnels into Paugus Bay at a narrow channel known as the Weirs, a village of Laconia and a booming tourist center. But at the end of the last ice age and continuing for 10,000 years, this place was frequented by indigenous peoples as a prime fishing area and potential village location. The Pennacook tribe, members of the Abenaki, constructed weirs, a kind of woven fence across the river that channeled fish for capture and gave the place its eventual name. In 1949, the second drive-in movie theater in the state was built on the hillside just to the west of the Weirs Channel. It developed onto one of the largest with 4 screens, 2 ticket booths, a snack bar, and a paved parking lot. All this has served as protection for the archaeological site that former state archaeologist Richard Bovair has called one of the densest, potentially most important archaeological sites that we know of in New Hampshire. Drive-in theaters are an American invention that developed along the motion picture industry. The first patent for a drive-in theater was issued in 1933. The growing automobile market and development of comfortable car interiors resulted in more than 4,000 drive-ins across the country at their peak of popularity in the 1950s and 1960s. Their decline began with the adoption of daylight savings time in 1966 and accelerated with the gas shortages of the 1970s, as well as the invention of VHS and subsequent movie rentals industry boom of the 1980s. Preserving both the indigenous history and below ground resources and the historic drive-in may be compatible continuing uses. But the property is now for sale and the Lakes region is under significant development pressure. This property has been on and off the real estate market for the last 5 years and is currently for sale with a pending sales agreement. By listing the Weirs DriveIn, we hope that the new owner will consider the historic significance of the property's resources as new plans are developed. Thank you.
Thanks, Tara. Wonderful. Next up, to the north, we have Trina Beatty from the Lancaster Historical Society. She's the treasurer, to talk about the Wilder Holton House.
Thank you. Last month, the Lancaster Historical Society hosted a community-wide birthday party for the Wilder Holton House on Main Street. Built in 1780, it was the first two-story house in Coos County and has been used as a farmhouse, a meeting house, a boarding house, tourist home, and private residence. In its heyday as the home and farm of one of the town's leading citizens, the extensive property included several barns, outbuildings, and mature shade trees. The Lancaster Historical Society purchased the house in 1964 for their collection of historic furniture, paintings, clothing, toys, as well as photos, books, letters, and other documents. Today, the house helps tell the story of all the people of Lancaster. Indian shutters are in place on the first floor where the Holton family lived, and a narrow, steep staircase leads to the once open second floor that was fitted with hinged partitions to allow large groups to gather there. In June of 2018, with grant support from the Preservation Alliance, the Historical Society hired Alba Architects of North Woodstock and HEB Engineers of North Conway to conduct a building conditions assessment of the house. They found that severe moisture infiltration and high humidity levels had compromised the floors and overall structure of the building. Some rooms cannot be used due to safety concerns. The sills and support beams of both the house and the shed need replacement. A moisture barrier and proper foundation drainage are recommended, as is attic ventilation. The clapboard siding, windows, interior plaster walls, and ceilings all need attention. The Lancaster Historical Society knows our challenges are considerable, but we plan to complete work in phases, fundraising as we go. Our goals are to preserve the Wilder Holton House so it can continue to serve our community, educate all ages, welcome citizens and visitors for free tours, and to be a safe repository for all the items that tell the story of Lancaster's past.
Thanks so much, Trina.
Thank you.
Next up, the next property on the list is the Milford Bandstand. And here to talk about it is David Palance, who's the chair of the Milford Heritage Commission. David?
Good evening. The Oval, or the Town Common, sits at the heart of Milford's commercial and historical downtown. In 1896, this ornate bandstand was constructed to replace a previous one so the Milford Cornet Band would have a more suitable place to perform their regular summer concerts. Milford native and Massachusetts Senator A.E. Pillsbury donated the money to build it after the band's original fundraiser was rained out. A.J. Burnham made a plan, and band member Bill Woods, a local carpenter, put the structure along with several assistants in 1927. I'm sorry, in 1927, the bandstand was moved to the northern portion of the lot where it remains today. The Milford Bandstand is a natural gathering place and focal point for social, musical, and political events in town. And according to former state architectural historian James Garvin, it is one of the two best designed historical bandstands in New Hampshire. The other is the Belmont Bandstand, which has been fully restored. Garvin also notes that while there are many other bandstands in New Hampshire, it's examples of ornate wooden structures, the Milford and Belmont bandstands seem to stand alone. Their curved, steep roofs and fretwork typify the Victorian era architecture. Growing concerns about rotten wood and the structure's integrity and safety, as well as pressure to upgrade the electrical and AV capabilities of the bandstand, led the town of Milford to propose demolishing it and rebuilding something new in its place. The Milford Heritage Commission was quick to advocate for restoration instead. The Heritage Commission is optimistic that 7 to Save listing may help them come to an agreement with the Department of Public Works, the town, and help preservation plans to attract the necessary funding. The goal is to maintain and expand the ways that the bandstand serves the community and to preserve an important, beloved part of its history.
Another great community icon. Thanks so much, David. The next space is an unusual paired combination. We're going to talk about two properties in one spot on the list, and they are a pair of Cornish Colony properties, and they share this spot. As you can see from the image, it's Blow Me Down Farm in Cornish and the home and studio of Percy Mackay. So I'm going to offer a little bit of an intro and then offer the chance again for two representatives one from each project to talk a little bit more about the properties. But to set the stage, I think a lot of you know that the Connecticut River Valley's rolling hills, its farms, its beautiful vistas attracted artists, writers, musicians, and other creative people who in turn left an artistic legacy with local and national importance. The Cornish Colony began when New York attorney Charles Beeman Jr. bought Blow Me Down Farm in 1880 and encouraged sculptor Augustus St. Gaudens to join him in Cornish, renting the property that became his home. These two, patron and artists, formed the nucleus of a vibrant group that included people like painter Maxfield Parrish, playwright Percy Mackay, who we'll hear a little bit more about later, architect Charles Adams Platt, and novelist Winston Churchill. In addition to the artistic legacy of paintings, poems, and much more, the Cornish Colony left an architectural and landscape legacy of great architecture and properties, Plainfield and Cornish area. A major jewel of the Cornish Colony necklace, so to speak, that you probably know, is the home and studio of St. Gaudens, which has the distinction of being the only National Historic Park in New Hampshire. This year's list includes two other gems of this necklace that need preservation and stewardship boosts to survive and to thrive. The first is the Charles Beeman Estate Blow Me Down Farm, and here to talk to us a little bit about it is Opera North General Director Evans Hale. Evan?
Thank you so much. Yeah, Blow Me Down Farm is leased from the National Park Service to the not-for-profit Opera North. And we've accepted a challenge to transform this 46-acre site and its buildings into a national park for the arts. We are the only arts organization that actually is partnering with the National Park Service to create something like this. Opera North is restoring Charles Beeman's casino for our new headquarters and performance space. Beeman had commissioned architect Joseph Morris Wells of McKim, Mead and White, leading New York architects, to turn a former federal period house on his property into a classical revival styled home and attached casino, which then became a hub for these colonies, for the artist colony, for parties and dances, socializings, and even 10-pin bowling. Since 2018, Opera North, after we have received our partnership with the Park Service, we have been producing professional performances of opera, circus, including working with the Big Apple Circus, musical theater, jazz evenings, as well as hosting plein air painting classes and circus camps. This mix has attracted a very diverse group of new audiences of all ages, which is really wonderful as we look towards the future and continues to build awareness of Opera North. We will be celebrating our 40th anniversary this coming year, and of course, the St. Gaudens National Historic Park. We hope that this 7 to Save listing will assist our fundraising efforts to continue the building's rehabilitation to National Park Service preservation standards, with our goal of truly creating a park for all the arts and a true destination for the area, despite the sizable financial losses and challenges during the pandemic. From the Blow Me Down Farm, views of the Connecticut River and Mount Ascutney, the natural beauty and culture that is the Upper Valley and the Cornish Arts Colony are something we could not be more proud of. And we thank everybody for taking a look at this and hopefully coming and visit it as well.
Very tempting. Thank you so much for sharing that profile. The other Cornish Colony property sharing this spot on the list is the home and studio of Percy Mackay, a nationally known poet, playwright, dramatist. Here to talk a little bit about this special place is Susan McMahon. She's the executive director of the nonprofit Landmark Trust USA. Susan?
Thank you. So at the height of his career in 1905, Percy Mackay moved his family to the Cornish Art Colony. In 1913, he purchased land there, moving his writing studio and built a house. Here he produced some of his best work, creating pageants, masks, and communal theater events, both for the Cornish Colony and throughout the nation. His bird mask, performed first locally in 1913, became an inspiration for a national bird sanctuary movement. His Mask of St. Louis for the 150th anniversary of the city in 1914 was a culmination of his ideas for a civic theater. Had a cast of 7,500 volunteer citizens and drew an audience of 75,000 on opening night. Percy's brother, Benton Mackay, who spent all his summers during the last half of his long life at the Cornish Colony home of his brother, is considered the father of the Appalachian Trail. He wrote of his idea for the trail in 1921. The Appalachian Trail Conservancy has just published a book celebrating the 100th anniversary of the initial publication and their hopes to fulfill Benton's far-reaching ideas for conserving a broader landscape than just the trail itself. Percy's granddaughter and Benton's grandniece, artist Kyober, would like to see her family's property preserved and enjoyed, and the collection related to the work and the life of her grandfather and great uncle made available to the public. Sale in the open market would likely lead, and that's a picture of Kai, likely lead to demolition. After learning that her property was not a candidate for the National Park System, she explored other stewardship options and assigned a one-year agreement with the Landmark Trust USA. The Landmark Trust USA is a nonprofit established in 1991 to carry on historic preservation work in America according to the model established by the Landmark Trust in UK. The one-year agreement will allow the Landmark Trust USA to complete the necessary due diligence to determine if this property will benefit from our stewardship model. The Landmark Trust USA's philosophy of sustainable stewardship relies on the income from short-term vacation rentals to preserve and maintain the integrity of each distinctive building. Each day at the Landmark Trust property supports our nonprofit mission, bringing new life to heritage buildings. With the possibility of adding this New Hampshire property to its current portfolio, which includes Rudyard Kipling's home, Nalaka, nearby in Vermont, the Landmark Trust USA could not only find a winning conservation solution for the Mackay property, but also build our network of exceptional historic properties across the region and the country. Thank you.
And two special properties and wonderful partnerships for sure, and need. Next on our list is a property in Newington, the Newington Railroad Depot. And Helen Frink from the Newington Historical Society is here with us this evening.
Thank you. This tucked away station is the only remaining railroad associated building in Newington. As an example of a combined depot, bridge toll house, and second floor station master residence, it's a rare property type in New Hampshire. Built in 1873, it was placed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2010. This depot served the Portsmouth and Dover Railroad, built in 1873, that included a combined two-lane railroad and carriage bridge across the Piscataqua River from Bloody Point in Newington to Dover Point. A ferry had served that crossing since 1640. The new bridge included a swing section that the station master operated with a windlass, allowing vessels to pass between Great Bay and the Piscataqua River. The Newington Depot became obsolete in 1934 when the General Sullivan Bridge was built and the Boston and Maine Railroad abandoned the Portsmouth and Dover line. In 1937, the state acquired the land and depot, which it still owns, with plans to create a park or recreation area at each end of the old bridge. Hilton Park in Dover was completed, but nothing was done on the Bloody Point side of the bridge in Newington. The depot was a private residence from 1937 to 1971 and has been vacant and boarded up since then. The state recently rebuilt the deteriorating chimneys, but the roof has reached the end of its useful life and the exterior paint has failed, exposing the clapboards to the elements. From time to time, the town of Newington and the state of New Hampshire have envisaged making the property an attractive waterfront recreation and historic site, but nothing has come of these plans to revitalize and rehabilitate the depot. 7 to Save highlights an opportunity to preserve this underused site, and local advocates are rallying to the cause.
Boy, another
Thank you.
special place. Thank you, Helen. So here we are at the last spot on the 2021 list. And from time to time, I think some of you know, we've had a thematic listing to draw attention to a certain property type or property issue. And that's true this year. And here to tell us about it is Field Service Representative, my colleague, Nicole Flynn. She works all over the state helping with community projects, and she's the manager of our 7 to Save program. Wanted to give her that shout out. And this evening, she's going to be talking to us about the last spot on the list, which is for New Hampshire's historic theaters.
Thank you, Jennifer. Theaters across New Hampshire are in trouble. Community opera houses, playhouses, downtown movie theaters, and grand urban performance spaces have played a valuable role in building local economies and strengthening the social fabric of our communities. They represent a wide variety of building styles and decorative features. Several are listed on the national or state register, and many more are eligible for listing. For years, even before the pandemic, many have become vacant, only existing as places of memory and nostalgia. Others have hung on by implementing creative business models with new types of tenants and uses. But now, after 2 years of minimal use and canceled events, unprecedented challenges face them, with no or reduced audiences to support the costs of maintaining these historic venues. Communities throughout our state have supported capital campaigns and crowd-funded projects to keep the projectors rolling, shows booked, and tickets sold. Since the spring of 2020, COVID has compounded the strain of high operating costs and a rapidly changing cultural climate. to theaters that were already seeking support outside of their subscribers and patrons. The pandemic is a wake-up call and a stark reminder of their uncertain future. This 7 to Save listing aims to help theater owners and advocates raise awareness for their challenges and opportunities and remind people of the value of supporting the arts and historic cultural spaces within our communities. Once these historic landmarks close down, it is a monumental undertaking to bring them back to life. To ensure that these stages don't go dark, buy a ticket, attend a show, and support your local arts community.
Really an important topic. I think the connection between art preservation, vibrant places, economic need really have flown through this whole list of 7, haven't they? We invited a friend, an associate from a past listee, to offer a few words before I come back and wrap up this program this evening. We're really pleased to have Alan Chong, who's the director and CEO of the Currier Museum of Art, with us this evening. The Currier Museum is also the owner, the newish owner, of one of our 2015 listees, the Chandler House, a really important Victorian house in Manchester, which has in the museum and Alan have an exciting preservation project in progress. So I think Alan is here to say a few words again to this year's listees and to all of us, and then I'll offer a couple of closing comments. Alan?
Thank you, Jennifer. You know, it's really 7 to Save that got the Chandler House preservation project on the road. The house was named to that list in 2015 before I arrived in New Hampshire to take over the Currier Museum of Art. When I arrived in 2016, I joined the committee, an activist committee that was dedicated to trying to save the house. There were various proposals along the way. And through a long process of discussion and negotiation with dozens of different supporters and partners, but most especially with the community group that was deeply committed to saving this important house, we were able to acquire it and begin a long task of restoration. It's for this reason I say that the house belongs to everyone. We're the owner, we're the custodian, we're trying to spearhead it as the museum, but it really belongs to everyone. And without the community activist group, without the support of the Preservation Alliance and its help with funding and networking, we really wouldn't have gotten to the place where we are today. And there's a lot more to do. It's a huge project, but the house has beautiful interiors that really speak to our past. And I hope some of you are going to be part of the tours that we're offering on Thursday. Unfortunately, we couldn't offer enough spaces and there's a wait list. We're holding another event on November 12th. You're all invited to that. It's meant to kick off our fundraising efforts to complete the restoration of the project. But without New Hampshire Preservation Alliance, we wouldn't have even started on this wonderful road. It's an exciting thing, lots of discoveries, no skeletons in the closet, but very, very nearly. So welcome and thank you very, very much.
Well, Alan, we're wishing you great success and thank you for sort of outlining some of those critical ingredients, that I think are central to all of these projects. They're complex, lots of challenges, but great rewards, great catalytic effects for their owners and their communities for sure. I think we saw that in the 7 this evening. We've seen it when we've looked at the portfolio of other listees over the years. We're going to do more because of the sort of support and energy and creativity of people like you. Just want to say a few thank yous before we close. A big thank you to our 7 to Save sponsors. This is an incredible list of companies, New Hampshire companies that are supporting us to help raise visibility of these places and historic preservation generally. Their support allows us to provide free programming, assist listees in many ways throughout the year, not just with this one program. We are a statewide nonprofit with a wonderful board who have helped get us to where we are today. I know I'm going to miss some people, but it's fun to have, wonderful to have former board members, Peter LeBombard, Andy Axman, Liz Hangen, Lynn Monroe, Steve Taylor, Rob Stevenson, and others with us today, joining the current board for this announcement event and in our activities throughout the year. We have an amazing staff team. You got to meet Nicole there for the historic theaters description. Rebecca Howland's running the images. Beverly Thomas, Maggie Steer, Pat Myers, Rebecca, Nicole, and I are excited to do this work every day. In-person phone and email and in-person technical assistance, grants, educational programs throughout the year. Last year, we gave 50 planning grants and bricks and mortar grants. We have about a 50% success rate with 7 to Save. Lots more to do. We'll continue that commitment to hundreds of hours of help and hundreds of miles of visits in the year ahead for sure. This is happening because of all of you who join and renew as members, who give to our year-end appeal, friends who include us in their estate plans to help add to our endowment and build our long-term viability. We also have great partners. I know there's folks from the Division of Historical Resources and LCHIP with us this evening, conservation, housing, community development, and the arts. There's lots of synergy in all these collaborations and connections. And 2 more, I did 7 because it's the night of 7. Legislators who have helped us fill the toolbox over the years. I think Senator Waters and Perkins, Gwoka, and Ward are with us this evening. Folks associated with some of these, the districts that include some of these great properties, but are helping throughout the year to make sure there's resources. We can kind of build the toolbox of resources available to all of us to get more of this work done. And just in closing, thank you for joining us tonight. You Zoom viewers and Zoom participants represent a broad and wonderful community of individuals whose enthusiasm, resources, creativity makes all this work happen and is going to accelerate the work going forward. Wish we were together tonight. Some of you will remember the smell of chicken pot pie wafting in when we last were together at the Danbury Grange Hall 2 years ago. And as Nick said at the beginning of this program, we hope to be back together again soon for 7 to Save and many other kinds of programs throughout the year. Before I just wanted to mention too that in the legislator category, we've had wonderful support from our congressional delegation as well. And I'm going to be sending all of you a great letter from Senator Shaheen that was wishing us well for this program, but also wishing everybody associated with the listees well for the work ahead. So we really appreciate that, the good wishes and the work between the announcement events for sure. So feel free to stay on for a little bit if you want to chat after we formally close the program, and we'll follow up with you with more on the listees and other preservation activities ahead. But again, go get them to all the listees, and we're here to help you. And thank you all for being part of this announcement event this evening.
Thank you so much for doing this. It's wonderful.